And welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin.
And I'm Jonny.
And we're taking a little break from our regularly scheduled 1995 retrospective bucket list programming. We had just had some hiccups in our schedule. And so, Jonny, you had a really fun idea. Quentin Tarantino, man, the way that he's taken up so much headspace in so many people's brains. He was recently on the Brett Ellis Easton podcast, and they discussed, Tarantino's been hinting at this or teasing this for a while, but they finally got his top 20 favorite films of the 21st century. And oh my gosh, the panties that are in a twist over this list on social media is just, again, the way that Tarantino, Jonny, has his grip. He's got a chokehold on pop culture in a way where he can't say a word without people freaking out and calling him an idiot, saying it's the end of times, like running around, it's the end of the world, that kind of thing. It's just incredible. But you had an idea that let's talk about that, which we never talk about anything topical. So I thought that'd be really fun. And your idea was let's go over his list. Let's create our own list and see what we come up with. Let me ask you a question though. You are notoriously not online. We talk about this all the time. And again, the Tarantino chokehold is so widespread that even you heard of it, but you're not on social. How did you hear about this list in the first place?
Well, first of all, by the way, Brett Easton Ellis is one of my favorite authors. So I got to put that out there. So it's cool that he did this on that podcast.
He's also pretty controversial himself. You know what I mean?
He is. And
so pair them together.
Yeah. Actually, it'd be great to see Tarantino direct one of Easton Ellis's books. To be awesome. I'd go see that.
Wow.
But anyway, I'm not online. I used to be on Facebook, used to kind of like be involved in that world. And then I moved.
You grew up?
And I moved and I just couldn't, I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I don't know what it was. I was like, you know what? I just don't want to live in that world anymore.
Yeah.
And I was teased by people I worked with. I was like, you'll never get off Facebook. It's too hard to leave. And I was like, oh yeah. And I just like went to the thing and like left. Like that second, I was like, I'm done. I quit. And you'll go back. And I never went back.
Good.
And it's been like, what? Almost 9 years, and I haven't been back.
Wow. Okay.
So it feels good. And you know what? I recommend it to people because it's so liberating. As soon as you're away from it, you're like, why did I do all that? Why did I get involved in that world? So yeah, it was nice to get away from it and had that weight lifted. Anyway, I do still kind of like my wife and we have a stupid cat channel, and once in a while we'll like post cat videos.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. But anyway, I also kind of follow a lot of political podcasts. I don't watch movie podcasts so much. I mean, I know you do. I know you. That's kind of where I get my information from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do watch a few here and there.
Like ours.
I'm more in the political world when it comes to podcasts. And this thing was so big that it crossed over into the political, world. And all these people that I follow started talking about it. And I was like, what? Why do they care about Tarantino's top movie list? It was so weird to me. So I looked into it and thought, you know what, Darin, we got to talk about this.
Okay.
So
I've been dying actually on social media. Again, people are losing their minds where this man cannot say a word without people completely going bat poop crazy. And like I said, running around with the end of the world is nigh kind of signs, just like that. And then conversely, because this is the time of year where all these top movies of the year come out, the National Board of Review, again, the thing with Tarantino's list is people like, oh, what a snobby kind of knee-jerk kind of look how he's trying to impress us kind of thing. And then the National Board of Review, who's a very respectable like establishment, they posted their top movies of 2025, and they're mostly popular movies. They're mostly a list of blockbusters, and you've got people that are reacting to, oh, what a dumb list, like how come this is all entertainment stuff and nothing serious? And it's like, well, I guess you can't make anybody happy. You know what I mean? And it's just, I want to talk about lists. We've talked about them before in our 90s Palooza kind of closing season finale. We talked about lists because we gathered a list of all of our guests' top 10 movies of that decade. But the thing and I want to talk about how lists are subjective, all that, but I just don't understand why people are just throwing such a fit over these things where you look at a movie and like, well, that's not on my list, so this movie is null and void. That's not how lists work. That's not the point of lists.
Yeah.
And I know that Tarantino's a rabble rouser. He likes to stir the pot, we talk about, I want to hear you because you actually went through and you listened to it. His list is very personal. If you just sit and you listen to what he has to say about these movies, you're like, oh, that makes sense while this would be on your list. It's not on my list, but it makes sense while it's on yours. And I think that's the step people are missing is they look at a list, any list, whether it's from Tarantino or the Border Review or Rolling Stone, and go, this list does not match my own, therefore it's bullcrap, and I don't
Yeah.
have to pay it. And I just don't agree with that.
Well, lists they are subjective, like you said, and I think what we expected from Tarantino was just like this grand list of all these like just amazing movies, and we just. But what you like you said, you don't understand is there's a reason why he put that on his list, and if you go and find out why he put it on his list, you'll go, oh, okay, now I understand why you picked the one you picked, and that's how
Mhm.
it's going to be for our list. I mean, there's a reason why I picked my list. Each
Mhm.
one of these movies that I'm going to share with you affected me immensely, and it marked my soul. And I feel like I cannot forget them, and they've been a part of me ever since. And
Mhm.
so whenever I make lists, they always come to mind. And so it's like, well, that's for a reason. And I could watch these movies over and over again and never get tired of them.
Yeah.
And I always find something new, and I always find more reasons to appreciate them. And maybe that's the same reason why he picked what he picked.
Movies are personal. We all have a different visceral reaction to every movie we watch, and it is a culmination of the years that we've lived, the people that we've contacted, the education that we've had, the social media that we read or avoid. It's all a compacted react that's led us to this point, and that's how we're reacting. I don't understand how somebody can look at this and go, "Oh, you have chocolat on your list or whatever," right? It's like, "Oh, I wouldn't have that on my list. That's stupid." And they shut down the conversation instead of finding out why. Okay, I wouldn't have that on my list, say, but why is it on your list? I want to know. And again, when we did our 90s Palooza finale, that was the whole point of lists is to I want to gauge people's opinions of how the decade went, right? That's what
Yeah.
interests me. It doesn't when we have guests on, Johnny, it's because I want to get to know the people that we talk to, right? I want to know where they're coming from. I want to know how they arrived at this point, why they like movies, why they like the movie we're talking about, that kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
what interests me. Not are we supposed to live in a world where everything is homogenous and commodified, where everybody's list is the same? It's so boring. Like, why would you want
Yeah.
to live in a world like that where we're just automatons? I don't understand. It's infuriating. And again, when
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to talk about this somehow. So when you texted me again this morning, I was like, oh, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's do that. So, but what
Yeah.
was you reading Tarantino's list again? You tell me that he was giving a personal. I haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast yet, but or
Yeah, dude, I
podcasts.
read the responses. I read the reasons why.
Okay.
And I will admit, when I first read the list, I kind of just went through each one without reading what he said. I went, okay, why did he pick that? Like, why did he pick that? Like, that's weird. Like you say, I wouldn't pick that. But I was
Hmm.
like, okay, there must be a reason. So then I go and read what he wrote, and I go, oh, okay, that's why. I mean, for example, he chose Black Hawk Down as his number one, and
Hmm.
I saw Black Hawk Down, and I liked it when I first saw it, but I didn't have like this need to go watch it again. I even own a copy of it, but I
Hmm.
never put it in. It's
Yeah.
just sits there, and I don't know. Like then you read it and you go, okay. I mean, his heart. He said his heart was like just ready to beat out of his chest while watching this movie. And I also think he said too that he didn't really like it as much when he first saw it. It took multiple watches to come to the opinion that he has now. And
Hmm.
so, and this happened to me. Like I've talked about in our Big Lebowski episode. When I first saw Big Lebowski, I didn't like it at all. I was
Hmm.
like, I hate this character. I hate, the way they talk. I hate all of this. And then I watched it again and I started laughing at it and I sort of, oh, this is kind of funny. Then I watched it again and I was like, the more I watched it, the more I liked it. And now
Hmm.
I love it. Like I love that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so your opinions can change. And I think that's what happened here. He just like would have these multiple rewatches and revisit a movie and discover something new and then change his opinion.
Well, that's how adults act, right? An adult will see something, maybe they won't like it, but again, they're like, again, Andrew Zimmern, who's a very famous foodie, I would say, he would try every food, but if he didn't like something, he'd be like, okay, I've got to try that again to make sure that I didn't like it, and then I can make an informed decision. It's the same thing with we talked about this. We just talked about this on 12 Monkeys. How some people watch a movie and they're like, that didn't make sense. That's the movie's problem. It's not mine. But not all movies are built to be. Again, I can watch a Top Gun Maverick and just everything that's supposed to work on the surface works for me, right? But then you
Yeah.
have other movies like, I don't know, Ingmar Bergman's Cries and Whispers, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's not an easy watch, and I didn't like it the first time, but there was something about it that I was like, it won't leave me. I can't
Mm.
get this movie out of my head. And so I watched it again and I'm like, I don't like this and it's hard to watch, but that's what the movie's doing. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable and question things, but
Yeah.
people shut off. And I think maybe that has something to do. I don't know. What do you think? Is that something to do with like film critics just don't have time to go back and revisit stuff, or is that just a
Well,
childish, infantile brain thing?
yeah, I never liked film critics, and it's funny because I think I kind of am one being on a podcast talking about movies.
Yeah, we're
But if
all
I were
are.
me, I wouldn't like what I think about movies. I'd be
Yeah,
like, "Who's screw that guy?"
yeah.
But no, like I was gonna say a movie I saw that I really enjoyed. I had a great time in the theater. I saw it with my sons, and we had a blast, and it was really well made. It was Fall Guy, the Ryan
Hmm.
Gosling, Emily Blunt movie about stuntman. It was so fun. And I was like, that was a really good movie. Like, and I even thought maybe it belongs on my list because I really there's not much wrong with it, you know? Like the
Mhm.
acting's good, even the script is pretty dang good, and the stunts are amazing. So if you like that kind of stuff, then yeah. So and it can do the same thing Black Hawk Down did for Tarantino, where it can leave you on the edge of your seat, can leave your heart pumping. There's some really intense scenes in that movie. But
Mhm.
anyway, so, but it's kind of not the cut movie you would see on a top 10 list from
No.
critics who are these snobby, what I think is the best or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go over. I want to read his list. And if we wanted to, we can mention just, I don't want to go through each one because that's, again, I don't want to be those people out there. But again, there are a couple titles in here that I'm like, I don't know what that is. And that's another good thing. If you see a movie, I think the point of being a critic or the point of watching movies, being a scholar, is to open the minds, open movies to people that wouldn't normally watch this movie or wouldn't normally have heard of it. And so when you mention him, when Tarantino, famously, he worked in a video store. We all know this, and he knew every movie, so he would recommend movies. That's what his list feels like. It feels like a film festival. That again, he holds those regularly at the Alamo Draft House, stuff like that, or all over the place. His list feels like a marathon again of stuff he feels. But I just want to go over this list here, and we can talk. Like I said, we can talk about a couple of them. I'll just read them in order from 1 to 20. So he's got Black Hawk Down, like you said, Toy Story 3, Lost in Translation, Dunkirk, There Will Be Blood, Zodiac, Unstoppable, Mad Max Fury Road, Shaun of the Dead, Midnight in Paris, Battle Royale, Big Bad Wolves, which again is one of those movies that I had no idea what that is, so I had to look it up. I guess
I haven't seen it either. Yeah.
it's an Israeli black comedy horror thriller. So, oh, interesting. That's sounds like something that Tarantino would watch and
Yeah.
recommend. Jackass the movie, School of Rock, The Passion of the Christ, The Devil's Rejects, Chocolate, which I said chocolate a lot earlier and I didn't mean it. I think Chocolate is a martial arts film.
Okay.
That seems pretty fun. Moneyball, Cabin Fever, and West Side Story, the Spielberg remake. Any just knee-jerk
Well,
thoughts?
it's a very eclectic list. I mean, there's like different genres in there, and that's one thing we want to talk about is like, what's your criteria for the list? You know what I mean? Like, are you
Yeah.
doing just comedies? Are you doing dramas? Are you doing like, and how do you rank them? Is it because something that they did cinematically, something they did technically, or what is it that you're ranking it for? You know
Are
what I
you
mean?
trying to impress your peers?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a weird list. When I first read it, I was kind of like I said, weirded out by it somewhat. But after you read into why he chose what he chose, you kind of accept, okay, that's just what he thinks, and I can live with that. I don't care. I really don't care. Like it makes no difference on my life what Tarantino thinks are the best 20 movies of the century. Who cares? You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? Like good for him. Like he likes all kinds of movies, and so do I. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I don't get it.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a film festival. It's all these different ideas. I think it's funny that there are a number of movies in his top 10 where I talk about the chokehold, where people would see like There Will Be Blood or Mad Max Fury Road, which are making a lot of people's best of, right? I look at movies like that and I'm like, is this causing people because they hate Tarantino so much to go, oh, even though I've defended There Will Be Blood since it came out in 2007, because Tarantino had this on his list now, I think it's a crap movie. I'm going to change my mind. It's a terrible movie. Ah, that'll show him. It's like, I don't think he cares. Like,
No.
why do you care? What does it matter? Again, if you see Big Bad Wolves, if you see Jackass the movie on here, I wouldn't put Jackass the movie on my list, but
No.
this isn't my list.
Yeah.
What does it matter? again, I just like that some of the reactions here, like him talk, there will be blood. He basically insulted Paul Dano and was like, this guy's
Yeah.
weak sauce. And to me, I'm like, well, I mean, that's the whole point of There Will Be Blood. You got this very strong-willed guy versus very weak-willed kind of, but even he plays what, twins in There Will Be Blood, right? And even they're strong-willed in a way, right?
Yeah. And I disagreed with that. I didn't think he was that weak in the movie. I thought he actually had a really good performance. So I don't like Paul Dano per se and everything he does, but
Right.
he was not bad in that movie.
But that didn't, because Tarantino said that, it doesn't cause you to
It
run outside and
doesn't
tear
change
the
how
hair
I
out of your
feel
head.
about it.
Like,
Yeah.
why does it freak out so many people?
I don't know.
Unstoppable on that list. Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. It's Denzel Washington. It's Chris Pine. It's a fun, energetic movie. It's not something that would make my list because I've forgotten. If I watched it again, I wouldn't remember half of it. You know what I mean? But I remember
Yeah.
having a fun time during it. But the people that are freaking out, going unstoppable. Why does he have that? So dumb. And I'm like, well, you obviously don't know what Tony Scott means to Quentin Tarantino. So why are you talking? Like you have no idea why if you just read his history and what he thinks of Tony Scott, you'll know why this is included on his list. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's the battle royale on here. He mentions again, and here's the thing, Johnny. When you talk about, if we talked about Casablanca, we talked about It's a Wonderful Life, right? We talked about Back to the Future. My pushback for those movies is I don't really want to talk about stuff that's been in the zeitgeist for 20, 30, 40, 50, because what is there left to say, right?
Yeah.
When you sit down, well, why is Battle Royale on your list? Tarantino's obviously going to say, well, I really like it. And also, hey, Hunger Games kind of ripped this off, right? That's been said since Hunger Games came out. And people are like, oh, he's saying this stuff about this movie now. And it's like, well, he's giving you the reasons why it's on his list and what he thinks of it. It's like, how can you come up with something new to say about Casablanca? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there a particular, again, you said there's, which one did you say you looked at and like, why is that on here? Like
Oh, I don't know. A few of them. I
a
mean,
few of them. Well,
oh,
what?
Shaun the Dead. Shaun the Dead, maybe.
Okay. Well, why? Just it's a knee-jerk reaction, right? I mean, why would you not have Shaun of the Dead just say on your list?
I don't know. I mean, I saw it once. I think I
Hmm.
laughed a few times, but it didn't leave a memorable
Leave a
impression
mark.
on me. Like it
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't walk away going, "Oh man, that's the best movie ever." That didn't happen. So
Uh-huh.
because I didn't have that reaction, it was kind of forgettable for me.
Yeah, but then I look at that and I'm like, huh, I didn't like that particular movie, but why do you have it on your list, good sir? Like, let's talk about that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want I want to hear your reasons. So again, that's the thing we're talking about. Like, I could go through like Dunkirk would probably make. I love Dunkirk. I love Zodiac. I love Toy Story 3, not as a
Yeah.
whole. I love Black Hawk Down. There's at least one on here that did make my top 10 list. But it's just
He's
the
got some good
conversation
ones on there,
starter.
but you know what I thought? You know what I expected? I
Hmm.
expected to see Kill Bill Volume 1, Kill Bill Volume 2,
Or
Death
Inglorious
Proof.
Bastards, since that's his masterpiece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If I did Inglourious Basterds, I'd pick it for myself. I'd be like, that's the best
Yeah.
movie ever made.
Right. Okay. So again, we can talk about this till the end of time, but all right, let's go over our list again. I told
Okay.
you a caveat before we start is I went through a bit of a crisis, an identity crisis in 2012, and this is I've maybe said this in other conversations, but it probably had something to do with superhero movies. I watched The Dark Knight Rises, I watched The Amazing Spider-Man, and I watched The Avengers. And those three movies kind of turned me off of movies because I saw where the zeitgeist was going and I saw where the conversations were going. The Dark Knight Rises is a very personal, the fact that the movie ends with Bruce Wayne finding truth, finding peace, being healed, right? I could not believe I was watching that in a franchise because it has a definitive ending. And I think that's brilliant. So that was a good thing. Marvel's The Avengers, I thought was a fun time. They created all these movies with these five different characters. They combined it into one movie. I was like, this is great. Like you did it. Great job. And then at the end, it has a shot of Thanos turning around and it's smiling at the camera. And you're like, oh, so this is the goal. We're just going to keep making these movies. And then The Amazing Spider-Man, which was a remake of why again you're always going to make Spider-Man stuff. I think it's just very cynical and it was very downtrodden and morose, and I'm like, this isn't Spider-Man, and we're just going to remake stuff because we feel like the last movie so does that make sense? I just saw a
Yeah.
trajectory of where movie made, and again the MCU has become a huge thing. It's like in everybody's mind, like Tarantino, that kind of thing. And so I was just like, I think I'm done with movies. I don't know if I want to watch movies anymore because I don't like where this is going, and I stopped watching new movies for quite a bit.
Wow.
And then there was we went to go see Transformers: Age of Extinction in a theater, and my brain rejected every frame of that movie where it was a struggle for me in a theater. And at the end, I thought, you know what? I don't have to see every movie in a theater. I have better things to do, right? I've
Yeah.
got a life to live. So my caveat is there's a window of films that I haven't seen. So even if I'm going to put together a top 10 list, it's not written in stone because there are some movies that I'll mention a little bit later that didn't make my list that I want to see that are on like a must see list that maybe it'll change my top 10. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Opinions change. So I just want to say
Yeah.
that my list doesn't feel, I feel bad making a top 10 because there's so many movies out there that I still haven't seen. So it's a work in progress. But anyway, I
Yeah.
just want to
That
say
makes
that.
sense. No, that makes sense.
Okay.
All right.
So
So you want me to go through my list?
yeah, tell me I think you may have already mentioned this, but tell me why you made this list this way. What is your thought process
What's
to
my
put together?
criteria?
What's your criteria? Yeah.
It has to have affected me in like a very like emotional, like an emotional impact, and
Hmm.
like I would even say spiritual in a way. Like sometimes you see a movie and you just feel changed. You feel like something inside you changed, and each one of these
Hmm.
movies did that to me. Like I remember walking out of the theater being like, or wherever I saw it at, and being like, I'm a different person now. You know what I mean? I'm not the same person I was before I sat down and watched that. Now
Yes.
I'm somebody else, and for some reason that always stayed with me, and so that's why these movies made my list. And I kind of put it in order, like which one would I rather watch? Like if I would rather watch this one, I'd pick this one above the one below it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
All right. So my first pick is it's obvious
Is
for you
this
because you
from?
know me.
Is this favorite to non, or this is just a
Yeah,
random
yeah.
put
This is
together?
like in order, like top one. The first one's
Okay.
my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, rather watch that one before anything else.
In order,
And from
perfect.
2000 to 2025, right?
Yep.
Okay. So my first pick was, and you know this because you know me so well, is Memento. Like
Mm.
when we saw that together, you showed it to me. I wanted to watch it again right away. Like put it back in, let's watch it again. Like I was so like affected by that movie, and I kind of went crazy for a while.
Hmm.
Like I went out trying to find it, and I bought two or three copies. I bought the special edition where you could watch it like in reverse and you could watch it chronologically. And I was like, just like, how did they do this? I was like so blown away by it. And it's still my favorite movie, I think. And I don't watch it very often because I want to keep it that way. You know, I don't
Hmm.
want to like find things wrong with it. So I kind of like don't watch it as often on purpose. But Memento changed me. It changed how I thought about screenwriting, how I thought about just everything. And I was like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, that was amazing. So Memento, number one. Number two is The Dark Knight, and that's because it's the only comic book movie I have on it, and it's because when I was in the theater, like, and that first shot opened up and it started pushing in towards that window, I actually physically felt my body like be pulled towards the screen. And I was like being pulled along with the camera. And I sat on the edge of
Yeah.
my seat and I didn't move till it was over. And I was like, again, blown away by everything I saw. And I was like, movie, I don't know. When having worked in film, you know what goes into making a film. And that's why Tarantino kind of thinks what he thinks, I think, because he's a filmmaker, not just a
Hmm.
critic, but a filmmaker. And so when you know what goes into it, you understand what they're doing to make that shot possible and what they're all the effort that goes into it. That's what's so impressive to me. And so that's why The Dark Knight's on there because everything about it was so perfect. Like it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so well done.
Yeah. But that's
Okay,
the thing that people don't realize. Film critic, again, they know more than the average Joe, right? But there's a difference between that and actually making a movie and knowing what goes into it and knowing what had to be done to get this on the screen. That's very smart. So,
yeah. And then my third is Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. And Birdman also changed me and it also pissed me off because Birdman stole one of my ideas. Like
the
I wanted to have an
percussion.
all percussion score in a movie that I was going to direct. And when I saw that movie and I realized what they were doing, I was like, oh, they stole my idea. And I remember being so mad, but so in love with it at the same time because it was
Yeah,
so well done.
right.
And I think Michael Keaton is awesome. Edward Norton's awesome. I love the just the 10-minute long shots that look like one continuous shot. I love it. I love that movie. I could watch it over and over and over again. I
Good.
think the ending could be better. I have an idea for the ending. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but
No,
yeah.
tell me now, Johnny.
So, you
What
know, okay,
was
listen. Okay, here's the thing. I didn't want to see her look up.
okay.
I wanted her to get to the window and then cut the black. I don't want you to know what happened if he flew or didn't fly.
Hmm.
That's what I wanted. Don't
Yeah, they
tell me he
kind of
flew.
yeah,
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 don't
yeah.
tell me that.
It
I
leaves
got
all
pissed
his
off at the
cards on the
end.
table.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
don't tell me that.
Right.
Number four is No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
Also, one of the reasons for that one being on my list is because the lack of the score. And as I was watching it, I didn't really realize that there really wasn't that much score until later. And I was like, oh my gosh, you can tell a story and have a movie that doesn't have a score behind it telling you how to feel. And I
Yes.
still felt the emotions necessary to enjoy the movie. And so,
Mhm.
man, that movie, that also changed my thoughts of what it takes to make a movie, what's needed for a successful movie like that.
Yeah.
Another reason for this next one, number five, There Will Be Blood. Again, the score was so jarring, and it changed how I thought about what scores can be and what it can do to you and how it can
Greenwood.
affect you. Yeah, that
Yeah.
score is so hard to listen to, and when you're
Yeah.
watching the
It's
movie, like
atonal.
it just grinds on you. But yeah, I love it. I
Mhm.
love the way it makes me feel. And of course, you got Danny Day-Lewis and his performance, man. Just
Yes. Yeah.
he's just amazing,
Mhm.
and I
Not
love.
weak sauce.
No, he's not weak sauce. Not like Paul Dano.
Right.
And then I have to put a Tarantino movie on there, and that's Inglourious Bastards because I think it's his best movie he's ever made.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, I can watch it over and over again. I showed my son the very first opening scene because it was on. I was like, hey, come watch this opening scene. He came and
Oh,
sat down and he watched it. He was kind of like, what's going on here? And I said, just be patient, watch it. He watched it and it was always like, that was a really good scene. And I was like, I know, right? The whole movie is that way.
you know what's we talked about this before. What's so great about that scene or the scene where it's Michael Fassbender and all the Nazis
Yeah, yeah,
and that, or when later when Christoph Waltz is trying to get secrets from the Diane Kruger character,
yeah,
all that stuff. The thing with Tarantino is he's so dialogue driven. Dialogue is not motion picture. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
this was the movie that made the dialogue suspenseful and very cinematic. And it's all
yeah,
when Landa is trying to get the information out of this guy, he's intimidating him. It's the suspense is it changes you. It sets your hair on end. And that's
yeah,
I think it's Tarantino. I don't think he's ever going to be I'm never going to be able to come down from that because it's just so masterful the way he turned dialogue into cinema. And that's
yeah.
just it's the you're right, that's the whole movie.
And when I first saw it, I saw Alone. The next day, I took my wife back to watch it again. I was like, "You got to watch this. You got to see it. It was too good to not show you how good this movie is."
Yeah, yeah.
Seven is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Um, Again, I read the screenplay before I watched the movie, and so I already knew what to expect. And when the movie matched what I saw in my head from when I
Mm,
read in the screenplay, I was blown away. I was like, they put it on screen what I saw in my head, and
yeah,
I was like, I can't believe that. I can't believe because that never happens.
yeah.
I'll read screenplays sometimes before the movie, before I see the movie, and then there's a website you can read screenplays. Anyway, so I do that once in a while, and sometimes they don't. It's not what I picture. And when I saw Eternal Sunshine, it was exactly how I imagined it, and I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. So again, I was
Okay.
blown away.
Yeah.
Number eight is Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I gotta put a Coen Brothers movie on there. Oh,
Okay. Oh,
sorry,
two.
second Coen Brothers, second,
Yeah.
yeah. But this one too, again, it changed how I thought about what movies could look like,
Mhm.
and it changed just I don't know, like again, I don't get tired of it. I love it. It cracks me up. Everything about it, I think, is almost perfect.
Yeah.
Number nine is Amelie.
Ooh,
And
okay.
Amelie, same kind of reaction. Like I couldn't believe what I just saw. I was like, again, blown away. There's a couple like mistakes where you can see the camera's shadow, and
Okay.
so you might want to take it off your list for that reason if you're like a snobby film critic. But I can get past that because
Yeah.
it's so well done, and I loved the character, and I loved every image that I saw put
Right.
before me. So,
Right. Right.
and then my last one is my Guy Ritchie favorite, and that's Snatch. I saw Snatch with a group of friends after a play one night, and we walked out of the theater, and I said, "That's the kind of movie I want to make someday." And they were like, "Really? You want to make something like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's what I want to do. Like I want to make movies that affect me the way that just affected me. Like that's what I want to do."
Yeah. Okay. So that's go through your top 10 again. Just name them off.
Memento, The Dark Knight, Birdman, No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, Inglorious Bastards, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Amelie, and Snatch.
Okay. What's funny is we just talked about like let's not live in a homogenized world, and then what's funny, you naming off some of your movies, I'm like, oh, that's on my list. There's at least four that are on my list. So again, we didn't plan it that way, but again, this is why we're friends. Obviously, we're going to be affected by a lot of movies in the same way. But again, my list does not match yours exactly.
Okay.
So The way I put my list together, again, I'm weird. I can't do top. I can do things that affect me, but then I'll just be here all like you this morning. Let's record tonight. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get like a favorites list together. I'm going to change my mind multiple times as I'm putting this. It's going to be an existential nightmare for me to be able to do that. So what I usually try to do with my list, and we've talked about this before, is I'll organize them by a category so I can actually, okay, this is how I look at movies. So my list is basically arranged by genre because I think if we were to look at our favorite movies, our top 10 might all be dramas, right? Our top 10 might
Yeah.
all be comedies. And I think that's not very representative of other movies that are out there, right? When you do like Lord of the Rings and a top 50, and then you have all three of them in the top 50, I'm like, well, why don't you group those three movies together and then so you can leave room for two other movies that you can talk about instead of the same conversation? So
Yeah.
I arranged them by category. I also arranged them in a way where I didn't want to repeat like a director. I didn't want to repeat like a genre. Like we talked about it off air. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite comic book movie of all time because I could talk about that one for hours, but it basically gets what it feels like to read a comic book. But I also had, and so, but that's an animated movie. So I originally had that on my animated, and I know that's not a genre animation, but when you go to a blockbuster, you're not going to look for Beauty and the Beast and fantasy. You're going to go to Disney. You're going to go to family anime. So that's kind
Right.
of how I arrange my genres. But again, like I didn't want to have two directors. I didn't want to have. So I already had a comic book movie in my list, so I didn't want to have two comic book movies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So again, my idea is to give kind of a breadth of what I was looking at and how this for an action movie, I love this. This for drama, this told me, and this for science fiction, it told me a new way. And so I just like your list, these movies just affected me, but by genre instead of maybe by personal list. So anyway,
Okay.
that's a lot of stuff out of the way. So my list, I'll just go in alphabetical order of genres. Um, I'll try to be brief. Sorry, I'm never really brief about these things, but let's start with action. I think when you're doing like a list of when I put together a greatest films list, my list is probably not going to have a movie. Like if I did an all-time list, my list would probably not have a movie within the last 20 years. Because I think there's a point where movies just started repeating themselves and there's no new language created. It's just basically repeating stuff that had been done before, right? So I think action is different though, because you can do different types of action. And all the way into the 2000s, there's still new language being created. Like the Bourne trilogy, not so much Doug Liman's first movie, but the Paul Greengrass. I know people hate like the shaky cam and stuff, but the shaky cam is arranged in a way that it gives you you are there kind of feel, right? But
Yeah.
if you watch the language of it, it'll be confusing, but then there'll be a shot that Greengrass will insert. Oh, this will readjust and help me understand where things are coming from, right? So I can actually focus on what's going on. And so that's a new language. You have um again, a lot of people have Mad Max, Fury Road, and John Wick on their list, but maybe controversially, I don't think those movies created anything new. I think they basically just took stuff that had been done before and they helped you refocus. Like Mad Max Fury Road everything is center framed. And so that's not new. Spielberg has been doing that for years. James Cameron has been doing that for years. But it helped you refocus and go, oh, this is what an action movie should do, right? So those two wouldn't make my list. Again, looking at this at action, I just think as far as a franchise goes, I think the Mission Impossibles, which you can put in firmly in the 2000s,
I considered that, but I didn't. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they created a new kind of, Tom Cruise is just doing what Buster Keaton did, what Jackie Chan is doing, but it gave us new thrills where, oh, that's Tom Cruise hanging off the side of a plane or a building. Like, that's amazing. And so thinking of action, I just had to put a Mission Impossible movie. There's a stretch,
Okay.
Johnny, where it has Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and Mission Impossible Fallout, which I just think are created a new kind of visual. This is what action movies can do. So
Yeah.
pick any three of those, great. But my personal favorite is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation,
Okay.
Christopher McQuarrie, 2015, because it's just a pared down after the Looney Tune stuff of Ghost Protocol. I just think it's a pared down spy thriller. It has Rebecca Ferguson, who's the best thing to happen to the franchise since Tom Cruise. She has such a great character, and they couldn't think of what to do with her, so they had to kill her off in later movies. But again, Rogue Nations, I just love how it opens with the big stunt of him hanging off the side of a plane. It gets that out of the
Yeah.
way, so focus on story. I just think it's a very tight, very personal film. So action, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. So again, we talked about animated. Um, I don't know if I'd call this a family movie. I was looking at this list, Johnny, and I think this is the movie that changed me chemically more than any other movie. Well, besides one we'll talk about in my romance category. But have you seen It's Such a Beautiful Day, the Don Hertzfeldt animated movie? It's
Nope.
basically stick figures. I don't want to ruin it for people. It was basically like he created like these animated shorts. I think like Everything Will Be Okay was his first one. He had two others, and then he combined it into this one movie and released it. But this movie changed me because it talks about things in life where, again, it's just done with stick figures. And so it kind of pares down everything and just, again, gets everything down to brass tacks. And it just affected me so much. Where at the end, like you talked about with some movies on your list, I walked around in a daze. I was like, what just happened? I look at the way movies are made different. Again, I can go on for hours and hours again with all of these, Johnny, but if you can, check out It's Such a Beautiful Day. It's only like an hour and 20 or hour and 10 minutes,
Okay.
but it ends in a way where it talks about death. It talks about how our brains work. It talks about depression. It's such a, yeah, out of all the movies, this is the movie that changed me the most chemically. So
Hmm.
check that one out.
Okay.
For
Interesting.
comedy, we all have our different ideas of comedy. Like Tarantino had on his list Jackass the movie, which I wouldn't have on my list. I don't like that stuff. But if it made him laugh like no other movie, that's the thing he's going to put on his list, right? When I watch comedy, I want something that's very idiosyncratic, but also that I laugh at and just amused by constantly. But also, I want a voice and I want to be affected. So I've got Royal Tannenbaums as my
Okay.
favorite comedy of the century so far. I just think out of all of Wes Anderson's movies, yeah, it's got Gene Hackman and like what maybe his last great performance. He's such an asshole. Like, but he's one of those where you end up loving him and you cheer for him, that kind of stuff. It's got
Yeah.
like Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelica Houston, Luke Wilson, all these characters that are in so much pain, but they're so idiosyncratic in a very Anderson type way.
Yeah.
And with Ben Stiller, that line where he looks again, Chaz and Royal are just have in a rift. And at the very end, when Chaz looks at his dad and goes, "I've had a really rough year, Dad," and that's so it's so powerful, right? That it, yeah, these characters are jokey, but they have real pain, and I just think that's very important. Where comedy, you need to recognize, even if it's in another world, all these characters exist in a different space than we exist in, Johnny. We still recognize that humanity. So, Royal
Yeah.
Tenenbaums is my comedy.
Well, that's a good
So,
pick.
my this is our first double for comic. Again, when you look at genres, westerns were the thing in the 40s, 50s, 60s, but then they kind of faded away, right? And they're so people don't make as many westerns. Comic book movies are basically the new western, where it's a new genre that I think was created in the 2000s. Yeah, you had Tim Burton's Batman, you had Donner's Superman, but I don't think it was an actual like thing that people wanted to see until like Spider-Man or X-Men, right? And so I think
Yeah.
comic books, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
what I sound very snobbish because I'm like, if you have more than three comic book movies on your best of list, I'm like, well, I can't take you seriously. You know what I mean? Because it seems like you're just watching the most popular stuff, even though those might mean more. That's just gonna be my knee-jerk reaction. I mean, what tell me again your reason for having The Dark Knight, which is the one that I have on my list. Why did you pick that and decide that this is a movie that's worth my time talking about as a comic book movie? Because I
Well,
know you're not super into those.
yeah, well, like I mentioned, it just pulled me in and just held me the entire time. And I
Yeah.
was just when I was done, I was amazed that I didn't move. Because usually I get fidgety, I get bored in movies. I
Mhm.
move around, I tap my fingers, you know that. But like I could not believe what I was seeing, and I was just mesmerized by it.
The thing that's great about The Dark Knight is it's you look at Batman Begins, which I adore. That's more of a genre picture. What I mean by that, it doesn't really color outside the lines. It gives you exactly what you want at a superhero origin story, but it doesn't try for anything. You know what I mean? It just is, and it's great. What The Dark Knight does, and because Batman Begins wasn't like Batman was not a hot commodity when that movie came out, and it didn't make a lot of money, but kind of built this following to where
Yeah,
The Dark Knight makes over it's the first comic book movie to gross over $1 billion. And I think what happened is Nolan decided, sure, it's silly. Comic books are silly. I'm going to make it more realistic, right? But I think with Batman, you can do that. I don't think you can be grounded and gritty with somebody like Spider-Man or Superman because that's fantastical in nature. You can make a movie about a guy that's psychologically tormented and damaged to the point where he puts on a bat suit and goes out and beats people up to exercise his demons, right? But the thing that's great about The Dark Knight, besides the IMAX stuff, besides the Hans Zimmer score with the Joker theme, besides Heath Ledger's great performance, besides the screenplay by the Nolan brothers, the Dark Knight, Johnny, is a screenplay that's a very because of or therefore type script,
Hmm.
which Matt Stone and Trey Parker talk about. You don't want an and then script because it just feels random. When you look at The Dark Knight, every single scene is the cause of is the result of a scene that's come before it or a conversation. And so it's just a plot monster because it just shoots right through and it doesn't never seems random because it's built off of stuff before.
Yeah,
But
I can see
more
that.
than that, I love that it asks philosophical questions. It's basically about Joker giving the world these again insightful kind of look at yourself. These are kind of the conundrums that I'm going to give you, whether it's two fairies, whether it's kill this guy who's going to tell who Batman is, I'm going to blow up a hospital. Besides, the Batman must come out and reveal himself. It's all about philosophical everything. It questions who Batman is. Again, we could talk for hours about this stuff. I just think for a comic book movie, it took the genre to a place that had never seen before, where, oh, Spider-Man's just swinging on webs because, right? Superman can fly in a blue and red unitard because. And I just like there's a psychological thing to The Dark Knight. Anyway, so greatest
Yeah.
comic book movie of the decade. For drama, this is our second kind of repeat. I do have No Country for Old Men
Okay.
as again, drama is weird because, like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. So what I look at is new ways of telling stories. I originally had Memento, but you told me you kind of spoiled it for me. You're like, oh, I can include Memento on this, and so I was like, yeah. But since I already have The Dark Knight, I think I'll move Memento, and I want to talk about a Coen Brothers movie because, again, you mentioned like there's no music, but the Carmack McCarthy dialogue melded with the Coen dialogue is musical in itself, is it not?
Yeah.
You've got Javier Bardem, who's probably the greatest villain since Heath Ledger, like or before Heath Ledger. Like you can count him on like three fingers. You can count the greatest villains. I think those two for this century would count. But I also love, and you have like the where you have the Josh Brolin character and Bardem kind of enemies, like they're the satchel or whatever. But the movie, and it frustrates so many people. The movie's about an existential crisis in a way, where it's Tommy Lee Jones. And it's weird because the cinematic stuff and the filmmaking is so great that you kind of lose track of the story, which I think is Cohen's point and McCarthy's point, is that it's the Tommy Lee Jones character looking at this world going, I don't know why this exists. I'm lost. Like this world, I don't recognize it anymore. So at the very end, we're denied the Bardem Brolin showdown. Like Brolin gets killed, spoiler off screen. But it ends with a monologue from Tommy Lee Jones going, I don't understand. And it's always going to be lost. And I think that's the point of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just, when you talk about movies changing you, I walked out of that movie going, yeah, I didn't get like the cathartic scene, but it's like, why is this movie making me think about other things and dreams and existence and things like that? I think that's
Yeah.
just brilliant the way that's done that. Okay, so and my next category is historical drama because again, you have biopics, things like that, and a lot of biopics, Johnny, are very, by the numbers kind of thing. I just think that if you look at this century, the thing that defined us a lot in the century was 9/11. I think that was a horrible, terrible, I don't know, important way to start the decade because it changed our perception of the world, right? And so I have Paul Greengrass's United 93 on this list.
Ah, I thought about that one.
Yeah, when I
I
watched
watch it
this in
one.
a
I watch it once a year on 9/11. Just
okay,
so you,
because it has like a lot of like it has real life people like in the airlines, things like that, in the control tower. It has people on the plane. When I watched the movie in a theater, when we as a group, I think we all watched it. I don't know if you were there with us, but it was so harrowing reliving that and
yeah.
seeing everything that happened, and it felt so real. And again, how many times have we seen the planes fly into those buildings? It felt so visceral seeing it happen again. It was like you were
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And in such a way where the passengers on that flight storm the cabin. You're sitting there in a movie. I know this is what not, but I'm this time, I hope they make it into the cabin and stop this from happening.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first saw it, my fists were clenched during that scene. I had the emotion I was feeling was like, oh my gosh, get those guys. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
get them,
yeah,
make a stop. Like,
yeah.
I hope they win. You know they're not going to, but you're like, you're still like hoping they're going to. It's weird.
Right. Yeah, again, very visceral experience. Maybe it's not an enjoyable movie, but I just think as a time capsule, as a snapshot of the century, I think that captures something very important in a century.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so horror, and I was going to include The Social Network in my historical drama because I love The Social Network. But
Yeah.
again, I was like, yeah, I mean, I my horror movie, it's called Cairo or Pulse, and it's by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. It was made in 2001. I don't know if you've seen it,
I don't think I have.
but it's like a J horror movie that's different than other J horrors. Where yeah, you've got some ghosts walking around with the hair in front of their face, stuff like that. But the movie is about, and I think this movie predated Facebook and a lot of these other social media platforms by a couple of years. And so the movie is about these characters that log on to this internet site and they end up disappearing all over Tokyo because they're getting lost in the internet because we talking about social media, Johnny. I think we lose ourselves a bit when we're social media, and that's really scary. That's a good thing you're able to step away from it. I wish I could step away from it, but unfortunately, we have a podcast we need to promote, so we have to stay on these platforms. But the way that the movie, it's basically an apocalyptic horror movie where everybody's disappearing because they're just existentially not there anymore. They cease to exist because their lives they disappear into a computer, basically. It's horrifying from that perspective. Again, like I said, I was going to have The Social Network, but I was like, yeah, but if I've got Pulse on my list, then I don't need to talk about the internet again or social media
Yeah.
because this movie already does that. So yeah, check out that. I don't want to spoil a lot of things for you, but it's very, very harrowing.
Okay.
Musical. Musicals, like we talked about westerns, like they've gone the way of the dodo. There's not, yeah, there's musicals, but the way that musicals, Johnny, today are advertised, they're advertised without showing the people singing.
If
Have you
you
saw
pick the
that?
one I think you're gonna pick, I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say because I think I know what you're gonna pick. I think I
What
know it.
What do you think I'm gonna pick?
Are you gonna pick Tick Tick Boom?
No, no.
Oh,
That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one.
I thought you were gonna pick that one.
Maybe I'll have to rethink that one. That one has Andrew Garfield's. That's a great performance.
It really is. Yeah.
We say this all the time about there's no hurt, should have, or deserve, but I wish they would have given that to him for best actor instead of Will Smith. We would have been saved
Yeah.
the whole slap thing.
Yep.
Again, Garfield showing up in Spider-Man No Way Home, and it makes you realize what a movie star he is and how charming and charismatic he is.
Yeah.
And then Manuel Miranda again for a directorial debut. Holy crap, man!
Yeah.
That one scene where he's in the swimming pool and it's got the musical numbers and he's just his creative process again, brilliant. Maybe I should have picked that one, but no, the one that I thought of was West Side Story, the Steven
Okay.
Spielberg remake. And this is the one that I was saying Tarantino has on his list.
Hmm.
Johnny, I know we talked about when we had Jason from Binge Movies on for Jurassic Park. He talked about how Spielberg had the pulse of the public. But there was a point after Jurassic Park and Schindler's List where he lost that because he wasn't that interested in he was more interested in personal retrospective stuff, right? So it lost that. So I agree that I haven't felt that energized by a Spielberg movie in a long time. Johnny, there's a part within the first 10 minutes of West Side Story where they're singing again, it's the Jet Sharks introduction, and it shows the Jets walking through the streets. And Johnny, these cars, as the music is, they come to a break on the note as it hits a note like three times.
Hmm.
And in a theater, I yelped.
Oh, really?
Because I was like, holy crap, because it was so alive. Like the filmmaking in this movie is so alive. And you know, I'm against remakes, but I think Spielberg may have topped that original, which is my favorite musical of all time. I'm still kind of wrestling with that. But just the way it has, you know, all the performances, Mike Faust and oh shoot, I don't want to mess her name up. Who was the who plays not Maria, but the other character? I can't remember.
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it. I've seen it once, but
Oh
I didn't see it
shoot,
again.
she was. I'm messing this up. I know he wanted to drop this like immediately, but I'm shoot. Let me look this up really quick. 2021, 2021 is when this came out. Anyway, it's Anita is the character's name. There are performances in this that are shockingly good and shockingly electric. The America number where they're all dancing and they've like the yellow dresses that are spinning and everything. I'm in love with every frame of this movie. I just think it's
Okay.
so Ariana DeBose is her name.
Okay.
Everything about this movie is so electric. And I was watching this going, I know West Side Story by heart, but this is changing the way I've thought about this movie and changing the way that Spielberg is able to arrange the musical numbers in a way that comments on the story. You have the song Cool, which is between Tony and Riff. And it, as they're arguing, it takes place over a dilapidated bridge. So the bridge with them communicating is falling apart that they're dancing on. It comments on what they're singing about and dancing about. It's stuff like that that's all through the movie that I'm just in love with. It's so electric, this movie. And again, I apologize to DeBose for forgetting her name, but I don't know. What have you seen West Side Story?
I saw it once, and I wasn't all that moved by it.
Yeah. Well, again,
But
personal and subjective, right?
right, exactly. That's what this whole discussion is all about. These lists are personal, movies are personal. So
Yeah. But again, you arrange cinematography like symmetrical stuff like that. And that's stuff that most people don't appreciate, but I'm sorry to say you and I kind of do, right? We look at
yeah,
that stuff and are impressed by it. So the way that again Spielberg is able to bring kind of a metaphorical kind of visual language to each of the numbers on top of the electric dancing and the electric, performances, things like that. I think it's just that's what I want to feel from a movie where even at the end when it's sad and it's tragic, I'm still moved by it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay. So,
So what's your list again?
okay. No, I've got two more.
Oh,
Haven't done that yet.
okay, okay. I thought you
Okay.
were done.
No, no, no. So romance is my ninth category. And
Okay,
again, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is what I've got in there. Johnny, I think you and I think different about romance than our wives do. You know what I mean? Like our wives and most women, they want like the lovebirds and the hearts, and they want things to have end happily ever after, and that's great. But the tragic stuff is what stays with me more, where I feel it, right? The
okay.
way that and again Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet playing against type, the way that they're erasing each other's memories from each other, and the way that Carrey realizes halfway through, I actually want these memories. I don't want to lose this. It's essential to the way I operate.
Yeah,
Right. And he tries to hide the visual language of this thing is just when he and Winslet are in that bookstore and the memory you're seeing the print disappear from the books.
yeah,
Michelle Gondry and again I usually have issues with Charlie Kaufman scripts because they lose me at a certain point, but this is the one that I was just there for the whole thing to the very end where he realizes it's so sad that he can't do anything to stop it. And there's that scene with him and Clementine on the steps and they stop pretending and she's like, "Well, we're going to forget this. What do we do?" And he looks at her and says, "Enjoy it." I don't think I've been so heartbroken by two words in a movie.
yeah,
And but again, the way that it ends, spoilers, with them hopefully getting back together, but still having the same issues. It's the same
yeah,
thing with Liz, right? We're going to disagree, but that's what makes us us.
yeah, exactly.
So, all right. So I've talked a long time. My last category is science fiction and fantasy, and I already mentioned. I think I have to have the Lord of the Rings on here.
Okay,
It's not my favorite. It didn't move me personally. There's maybe a couple others that did that, but again, I'm looking at this as a representative of the century. I just think if you're going to take an IP and you're going to adapt something, Peter Jackson gave these three movies a real heart and so much meat and so much emotion that I just look at these three movies, even though I kind of am iffy. It kind of lost me with the Turn of the King until the ending, but as blockbusters, I just look at these movies and I'm like, this is how you need to do it. These
mm,
movies feel so alive, and this should be the example now. If you want to make a blockbuster, yeah, you've got superhero movies up the wazoo, but if I'm going to make a crowd pleasing blockbuster, science fiction wise, look at Lord of the Rings and see what they did and how masterful they did it. Right. So
yeah,
again, I'm cheating by putting the trilogy in there. But anyway, I've talked a long time. I could talk a lot longer. Again, I apologize. But just as for action, I've got Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. Animation, I've got It's Such a Beautiful Day. Please check that out if people haven't seen
yeah,
that.
yeah,
The Royal Tannenbaums for comedy. Comic book, I have The Dark Knight. Drama, I have No Country for Old Men. Historical drama, United 93. Horror, Cairo or Pulse, if you don't speak Japanese. Musical, I have West Side Story, even though rethinking it, maybe Tick Tick Boom is right up there. And then for romance, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And science fiction fantasy, I've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I just think as a century, I just look at this. This is what's represented. This is what
yeah.
movies meant to me in genre wise. So,
By the way, my honorable mention is Whiplash,
oh
only because, he's a drummer.
yeah, of course. Well, that leads me to my next thing. Is I told you that I don't feel comfortable with this list because maybe there are movies that I haven't seen because I told you I stopped watching movies. So I made a list and there weren't a lot. So I was like, well, maybe I watched all the right ones. But these are the movies that are on my list that might change the way my list is. But
Okay.
just a few of them. We got Anatomy of a Fall. Really want to watch that. Call Me by Your Name. Decision to Leave. Holy Motors. Past Lives. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Uncut Gems, Whiplash, which you
I've seen
mentioned.
Uncut Gems. I've seen that
Okay.
one.
Yeah, good, right? It's supposed to be
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
And The Zone of Interest. So those are, what is that? That's 9 movies at least that I are on my list of must sees that I haven't gotten around to yet. And maybe my list will change. That's the other thing about lists, Johnny, is they're subject to change. We're going to be different next time we try to compile something like
Yeah,
this.
next time Tarantino puts a list out, it'll be different.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Which is
so
how it should be.
yeah, exactly.
So anyway, that's our special episode. I hope it pissed people off as much as Tarantino's list because then you know we've got a chokehold. You know what I mean? Then you know that
Yeah,
we've
we're in
made a
their heads
stand.
now.
Yeah. That's it exactly. So again, was there any closing thoughts that you had on any of this?
Just man, just go out and enjoy movies. Like who don't give too don't worry so much about other people, put on their lists. Who cares? Just enjoy what you enjoy about movies and make that your thing.
Movies are subjective, make it about you and share that with everybody. Unless you're able to put a list out that's unanimously adored, every movie on your list, you don't get to talk about Tarantino's list. I'm sorry. Like lists are purposely conjure, and yeah, he's a bit of a dick, you know what I mean? But that's his list. That's the movies that he wants to talk about. So let him talk about them. Like you don't have to make this your entire personality where you're just angry about what somebody thinks of a movie that doesn't match your own opinion.
By the way, if Tarantino's watching, you should make Bret Easton Ellis's Glamorama.
Oh,
There you
that
go. I got your
imagine
10th movie for you. Tarantino directs Glamorama.
imagine how many heads will explode with those two working together. All right, so that was it for this special episode. Sorry that I blabbed so much, but if you know me, you should be used to that by now. And Johnny laughing at all my rants and raves. But yeah, we'll be back. Our next, our concluding movie from 1995 will be GoldenEye. The Pierce Brosnan's debut as James Bond.
Yep.
Got some special guests that we've been trying to get a hold of, and so that's what's kind of the latest little bit. But I can't wait to record that episode and then to share that with everybody. So thanks for listening to our rants.